Virgo Weekly Tarot, July 22nd to 28th, 2026. Opening. Virgo, this week may bring the answer you have been trying to calculate. But it may not be the answer you expected. Your card is Justice. And justice arrives when something needs to be seen without excuses, exaggeration, or fear. What is true? What is fair? What actually happened? And what decision becomes obvious once you stop arguing with the evidence? From July 22nd through July 28th, the sky begins changing direction. The Sun enters Leo. Mercury, your ruling planet, finally stations direct in Cancer. Saturn turns retrograde in Aries. After weeks of review, crossed signals, unfinished conversations, and changing information, your ruler begins moving forward again. For Virgo, that matters. But justice is not telling you to rush toward the first conclusion available. It is asking you to use what the retrograde revealed. You know more now. You have seen more. Something that once seemed complicated may become surprisingly simple when you separate what you hoped would happen from what actually happened. This week is not about becoming colder. It is about becoming clearer. And clarity may be the thing that finally gives you peace. Cosmic weather. Wednesday begins with the Sun entering Leo. For Virgo, Leo season turns attention inward. This can be a quieter part of your annual cycle, a period of reflection, completion, rest, subconscious processing, and preparing for your own season ahead. You may feel less interested in forcing visible progress and more interested in understanding what has been happening beneath the surface. Justice fits this perfectly. Before the next chapter begins, something needs to be accounted for. Then Thursday brings the shift that may matter most to you. Mercury stations direct in Cancer. Your ruling planet has spent recent weeks asking for revision. Plans may have changed. People may have returned. Messages may have been misunderstood. You may have reconsidered a friendship, goal, community, collaboration, or vision for your future. Now Mercury changes direction. That does not mean every question disappears on Thursday. Mercury remains in its post-retrograde shadow. But the information begins moving differently. You can start making decisions with what you learned instead of continuing to collect evidence forever. Then Sunday, Saturn stations retrograde in Aries. For Virgo, this can begin a deeper review involving trust, shared resources, debt, obligations, intimacy, emotional vulnerability, or financial agreements. Justice becomes especially important here. What belongs to you? What belongs to someone else? What is shared? And is that exchange actually balanced? Card reveal. Justice is major arcana number 11 in many modern tarot traditions. The figure sits between two pillars. In one hand is a sword. In the other, scales. The symbolism is direct. The scales measure. The sword decides. Justice does not remain forever in analysis. That is important for Virgo. You are naturally skilled at noticing details, inconsistencies, variables, and things that could be improved. That ability is one of your strengths. But sometimes analysis becomes a way of postponing judgment. You keep gathering information because another piece of evidence might change everything. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does not. Justice says there comes a point when the scales have enough information. Then the sword must move. This does not mean making impulsive decisions. It means recognizing when further analysis is no longer producing greater clarity. There may be something in your life that you already understand. You simply have not decided what that understanding requires from you. Card meaning. Justice represents truth, accountability, fairness, consequences, balance, integrity, and decisions made from clear evidence. It is also a card of cause and effect. What you repeatedly choose creates something. What you repeatedly tolerate creates something too. This week may reveal the connection between a pattern and its result. That can be uncomfortable, but it can also be empowering. Because if your choices helped create the pattern, different choices can begin creating something else. Justice is not punishment. It is alignment. The card asks whether your actions match your stated values. Do your boundaries match what you say you deserve? Does your schedule match what you say matters? Does your spending match your priorities? Do your relationships reflect the standards you claim to have? Does the amount of responsibility you accept match what actually belongs to you? These questions are not meant to criticize you. They are meant to restore choice. You cannot rebalance something you refuse to measure. And this week, the scales are available. Areas of life. Love. In love, justice asks for reciprocity. If you are partnered, look at the exchange honestly. Not who did more yesterday. Look at the pattern. Does each person feel heard? Are responsibilities reasonably shared? Are expectations clear? Is one person repeatedly guessing what the other needs? A conversation may become easier once Mercury turns direct. Do not enter it trying to win a case. Enter it trying to understand what agreement would actually feel fair. If you are single, justice asks you to compare your standards with your behavior. If you say you want consistency, do not keep rewarding inconsistency. If you want emotional availability, notice whether you are emotionally available too. Attraction matters. Compatibility matters more. Work. At work, justice can be excellent for decisions, negotiations, agreements, evaluations, contracts, or situations where performance is being measured. Your attention to detail is useful. Read carefully. Check the numbers. Clarify expectations. If a professional conversation stalled during Mercury retrograde, movement may resume. But do not agree simply because you are relieved something is moving again. Ask whether the terms still make sense. This card can also indicate recognition of consequences. Work you did earlier may now produce a result. If you prepared well, trust the preparation. If something needs correction, correct it without turning the mistake into an identity. Accountability is useful. Shame is not. Money. Financially, Justice wants accuracy. This is a good week to examine bills, balances, subscriptions, debts, shared expenses, agreements, taxes, or any area where numbers need to reconcile. Do not estimate if you can verify. Saturn turning retrograde can make shared financial obligations especially important. If money is intertwined with another person or institution, make sure you understand the arrangement. Justice also asks whether your spending reflects your priorities. You do not need perfect discipline. You need awareness. Numbers are information. Use them. Health and energy. Your mind may be tempted to treat your body like another optimization project. Justice asks for balance instead. Look at cause and effect. What happens when you sleep enough? What happens when you do not? Which habits genuinely improve your energy? Which ones simply make you feel productive? You do not need to overhaul everything. Choose one imbalance that has an obvious consequence and adjust it. Your body gives evidence too. Listen to it. Your week day by day. Wednesday, July 22nd. The sun enters Leo and your attention begins turning inward. Do not interpret the desire for quiet as lack of momentum. You may be entering an important period of processing. Ask yourself, what needs to be completed before I begin something new? Let the answer be practical. Thursday, July 23rd. Mercury stations direct. Your ruling planet changes direction, and something can begin untangling. A delayed answer, conversation, friendship issue, collaboration, or future plan may become clearer. Do not rush. Simply notice what information is different now. Your decision can come after the evidence settles. Friday, July 24th. Communication becomes easier. This is a good day to clarify expectations or repair a misunderstanding. If you owe someone an explanation, give it. If you need one, ask. Justice favors direct language. Say what happened rather than constructing a case around what you think it means. Saturday, July 25th. Something subtle may become visible. You could recognize a pattern you have repeated without noticing. Do not immediately judge yourself. Observation comes before correction. The moment you can see a pattern clearly, you are no longer participating in it unconsciously. Sunday, July 26th. Saturn stations retrograde in Aries. Questions around trust, obligation, intimacy, debt, or shared responsibility may become more serious. Ask, what am I carrying because it belongs to me? And what am I carrying because I never questioned the arrangement? Fairness sometimes requires renegotiation. Monday, July 27th. This can be an intense day beneath the surface. A hidden power dynamic may become easier to recognize. Something unexpected could change your interpretation of a situation. Do not decide from the first emotional reaction. Gather the information. Then ask what remains true after the surprise. That is the evidence justice wants. Tuesday, July 28th. Make one decision. It does not have to change your entire life. Choose one thing you have analyzed long enough. Send the answer. Set the boundary. Make the appointment. Close the tab. Accept. Decline. Decide. Clarity becomes useful when it enters action. Journal prompts. First, what situation in my life do I already understand but keep analyzing because I do not like what the answer requires? Second, where is there an imbalance between what I say I value and where my time, energy, or money actually goes? Third, what would a fair outcome look like if I stopped trying to make everyone completely happy? Weekly guidance. Your assignment this week is called the evidence test. Choose one decision that has been occupying your mind. Take a page and divide it into 3 sections. Write. What I know. What I feel. What I fear. Under what I know, write only facts you can verify. Under what I feel, write the emotional truth without trying to justify it. Under what I fear, write the outcomes your mind keeps predicting. Do not mix the categories. Then look at the page. Virgo, this distinction matters because fear can disguise itself as analysis. A prediction can begin sounding like evidence simply because you have repeated it many times. Justice separates them. Your feelings matter. Your fears deserve compassion. But neither automatically becomes fact. Once you have separated the 3 categories, ask one final question. What decision best matches both the evidence and my values? Write the answer. If action is possible this week, take one concrete step. If action must wait, decide what information you genuinely still need. Not every possible piece of information. Only what could realistically change the decision. Then stop researching the rest. Justice does not demand perfect certainty. It asks for an honest verdict based on what is available. Closing. Virgo, justice arrives when the scales are ready to be read. Mercury, your ruling planet, finally turns direct and begins releasing some of the confusion or repetition of recent weeks. The Sun entering Leo invites you inward before your next personal season begins. Saturn turning retrograde asks you to reconsider obligations, trust, and what you share with others. And justice asks you to meet all of it with clear eyes. You do not have to judge yourself for every choice that brought you here. You only have to become responsible for the choice you make next. Truth does not have to be cruel. A boundary does not have to be punishment. Changing your mind does not mean your previous decision was foolish. Sometimes new evidence creates a new answer. And sometimes the evidence has been clear for a long time. The only thing missing was your willingness to trust it. Measure what matters. Separate facts from fears. Notice where the exchange has become unequal. Then choose what restores alignment. Your affirmation for this week is: I trust myself to see clearly and choose fairly. I honor the evidence, listen to my values, and release the need for perfect certainty before making an honest decision. Carry that with you through July 28th. Subscribe so your next weekly reading is waiting for you. Trust the timing. The stars have spoken.